You are now listening to the TerrorVision podcast.
Welcome to the next iteration of the TerrorVision Home Video Podcast. I'm here with Brad Henderson, and I am Ryan Verrill. It's going to be very different than the last couple times you've done this, and it's been a long time since the last episode of this, Brad.
Yeah, probably probably 6 months.
Yeah, I believe the last one was right after that big August announcement of every title under the sun getting announced.
Yeah, which wasn't a podcast, which I thought it was today when we were talking. But yeah, that was, it was just, it was during the time of like, we were releasing Return of Swamp Thing and American Nightmare. And we were doing like every Tuesday, which that was short-lived because we were eating ourselves. And yeah, it was just like, it was during that time, like we tried a few different things. Like, we tried, the 13 weeks of Halloween, which is a good idea, which we lasted like just a few weeks. Then the TerrorVision Tuesdays, and it was just basically trying to find our footing on like what works best for us, what works best for the audience. And the answer is neither of those in a business sense. The 13 weeks of Halloween would have been smoother if our replication was quicker, which it wasn't. So we just weren't able to, we didn't want to keep announcing things and not actually shipping out anything. Because I think, just recently we were able to get Killer in people's hands. And that was part of that, May announcement when we did that live stream. So and that shipped in November, I think. No, probably December. I don't remember.
So.
But yeah, like it was just one of those things where we just thought it would be faster because we were working fast, because Ryan and I work really fast. And the people that we were working with just couldn't keep up with kind of the amount of work that we would do. And also, like, we like to QC things ourselves, and we like to fix things. And, I'm big on the audio and visual side of things. If there's a subtitle where there's not a period or, a word's misspelled, I don't really care all that much. Unless it's like a subtitled movie, then that's different. But, if it's subtitles and everything, we can't, because people don't understand, like, the QC part on subtitles is insane, and it takes a ton of time. And I saw a couple people complaining that other companies aren't subtitling extras anymore, and I can't even fathom subtitling extras and then going through a QC process, because all of it costs money. People are like, oh, you just put them on. It's like, no, like everything you do is like another piece and another thing that needs to be QC'd. So if you do an interview, you have to QC the interview once, and then you have to QC it again with the subtitles. And, that time adds up. And then every time that you fix something, then everything has to be re-QC'd. So then you have to watch the 2 times again. And if there's another part, then you have to do it 2 times again. So, it's just a lot of work. And we've never subtitled extras, and, until like, it's just it financially, it just doesn't make sense right now. Well, it might sound shitty, but it's just the truth, because it would eat us alive, and we're not selling enough to warrant that anyway. But we do subtitle all our movies, which some companies actually don't do. So that's something that we always try to add is, whether I have captions or subtitles, we always have that, and we'll continue to do that, because I do believe that's important, because it's the movie, But yeah, it was just, we had a lot of material that we had to go through, and our our QC, our replication, they just couldn't keep up. So we had to get another manufacturer to do that. And that took some time, because it's like a contractual thing, and we're small. So like no one really wanted to work with us, but, we actually have a pretty good, uh, replicator. New Media does kind of a replication, and then we have another kind of the QC. We have two companies that do it, and the company that we use, I don't know if we're like supposed to say their names. It doesn't matter, but they do all the Criterion stuff. They do, the QC for Shout Factory. They don't do packaging, so no greasy discs or scratch discs. But which do they have problems? They have their problems with their QC, right? No, they don't
Yeah,
do Screen Factory. That's the thing. They don't do Screen Factory
right.
anymore. Maybe that's why Screen Factory has issues. Um, so yeah, they do Criterion, Kino, part of some Vinegar Syndrome. Um, they don't do Severin. I think they do MVD. But anyways, it doesn't really matter. But they're a big company, and they were like, "Oh, we can't do that if you're turning in." I was like, "What if I can guarantee like 70 titles a year?" And they were like, "That sounds good. We can work with you." And they understood kind of our small business side of things, so they took on our a good portion, and that's why all these titles were kind of coming out like in batches, because that's how quick they were working. It just took a while to start up because we got to figure out how they work, how
Right.
we work, and then we have to like re-download, re-upload everything. Kind of go through. It's just working with a new company, so we've got our bearings straight now. So, things will be a little bit different in 2024. But yeah, it was just like, we were like busting out of the gate, ready to go, and we were just probably going a little too hard for what the expectations were for other people. And we were also learning in the process. Like we had a lot of, like we were growing and learning, and I was learning a lot of stuff along the way too. Stuff that I didn't know, stuff that I never learned when I was, at Wild Eye and Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah, a lot of this too, when TerraVision was doing one disc a year ago, a month, and now it's on a great month, you're looking somewhere between 3 and 6 ish. That's a hell of a lot more work. And when you start looking at some of the best discs that we were putting out that are loaded with extras, that's a ton of QC, ton of rewatching stuff, ton of is it going to work in every player? Ton of art to review, copy to preview. There's so much that goes into these, and not to mention when you're talking about moving all these files behind the scenes. You're not talking about, let's send a little Google Drive link and be done with it. You're talking about downloads that will take all day sometimes for some of these files.
Yeah, like we're not, we don't have the infrastructure to be sending drives back and forth, and we
Right.
don't do a lot of stuff in house like other labels. So like and this isn't shitting on anybody. It's just they have the benefit of it. Severin does a lot of their stuff in house. Vinegar Syndrome does a lot of their stuff in house. We don't have that privilege because we don't have a facility for that, because we're we're an independent label, but we're trying to function as a big entity. So we're like clashing on that. We're learning a lot. We made probably, we definitely made some mistakes in the beginning of what we were trying to do and wanted to do. And it's just kind of a learning process. I mean, nothing went wrong other than like not being able to get titles out on time. And then also like, it was just kind of like, we had some instances where stuff was kind of ready, and then we discovered something behind the scenes, or like, oh, we could do this a little bit better. And it was like, like, oh, what if we did this? What if we did that? Like, is this ready yet? Well, let's go ahead and announce it because we think it's going to be done, and then it wasn't done, and then we think it's going to, and then there was a delay in something else, and it's like, oh shit, like you got to be fucking kidding me, and that kind of like Slashers, I think, is a good example because we had all the extras that Maurice did, He revamped, some old extras. He gave like an improvement on the picture on those. We were importing, old extras. We were shooting new extras. We were creating extras ourselves. And then before we knew it, like we had, I think there's like 20 line items or something on Slasher's disc. And then we were just like, okay, well, we have to QC it now. And it's like, well, that's not good because it's like 6 hours of
Yeah.
like content. And we have a 3 QC process. That's the other thing. It's like goes through 3 times. So 6 hours is 18 hours. So you think about your day, about when you work and all the phone calls that come in, all the other stuff. You cannot watch 6 hours of content in one sitting, like the way we do it, because it's
Right.
work. We got to answer the phone, we got to answer an email, and the thing is you have to stop it because your eyes, like you can't look away. You can't look at your phone. You can't go take out the dog. You can't go take a bite to eat. You can't look at something. You literally can't, like, it's like a whole training thing. Like people don't understand the proper, like, how to QC, and things have still slid by. We've had a couple, like, you know, minor issues with, like, there was like a frame in Shrigala where there was like a pixelation problem, and there was, which doesn't alter your viewing experience. It literally flashes for one frame, and that's a blink. That's one blink. You can miss it by blinking. And the same thing, like we swapped, I think, the commentary tracks on Cannibal Campout. So if you choose John McBride, you hear myself and Zach. And then if you choose Zach, whatever.
Right.
You get the idea. And it was just like, God damn it. Like, we're so focused on, like, is it playing right? Is the audio still there? And it's just like, sometimes it's just those stupid things, or a misspelling on a menu, which happens. And like, it's just like, it's one of those things. It's like a test, right? So like, everybody went to school. You study, you're good. Oh my God, I know this. And you sit down and you take the test, and then you become a stupid idiot and you don't know what's going on, and you're
Yeah.
bumbling, and you're like, I don't know what 2 + 2 is right now. Like, it's like a test, and that's exactly what happens. Is like, oh yeah, we got this, we got 20 things, it's edited, boom, 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 and it's like, okay, is it correct? And you're like, I don't know. I guess I'll watch it, and maybe I'll understand. It's the same thing as, like, even proofreading something. It's like, oh, I can write it up, and it's like, oh, proofread this before it goes out, and I'm like, I don't know how to spell. It's just, it's one of those things where you just know it's going to be the final process, and that we're not delaying anything by that, but it's so much heat that you have to
Right.
take on. That's not a fun part of the job at all. you know Announcements are fun, and, like, seeing people get things in their hands is fun, but a lot of the other stuff is not. Like, people, I get it all the time, like in podcasts and like interviews and whatnot. It's like, oh man, you're so lucky. And I'm like, kinda. It also kind of sucks, but I mean, it's fun. But yeah, so again, in 2023, there was a lot of learning curves that we had to adhere to. We had to learn, we had to see, we had to fail, we had problems. We were able to, figure out what not to do, what to do, moving forward. So, long story short, we got quite a few releases out this year, in 2023. We had a couple stragglers that will be shipping out relatively soon, and it's not a lot because we had like 20 titles announced and not releasing any of them. So we've
Right.
basically been able to go through all of that. We have another batch of films that arrived at the warehouse this week that will go. There's 6 of them, and then. We really did a great job catching up, and we're super, super thrilled about it. But also at the same time, it's like the amount of emails and hate mail and threats that come along with it is just not worth it. So what we're going to do moving forward is that anything we announce, we either have in hand, hopefully in hand, that's the best case scenario, or it's literally on its way to us. That way we have a better tracking, because when we were announcing things before, we were still trying to like organize the extras, maybe do a little bit editing here and there. Oh, we'll turn it in, this Friday.
Right.
Okay, it's all sent in. Cool. Tuesday comes along, Wednesday comes along. It's like, hey guys, this thing drops frames. The feature is having a glitch at, from this minute mark. There's some frame flutter here. You might want to check your master on this because it looks compressed. And it's like, okay, we're basically starting from zero again. So we got to redo all of that and then resubmit. And it was like, and then 1 week turns into 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And that's how it was. And it was just learning curves too. We were learning a lot during that time because I'm very careful about everything I submit, because it's like a lot of this stuff just rides on me. Ryan's not doing any of the. I mean, I'm not saying that. He listens to this, he'd be like, "You motherfucker." He doesn't do any of the QC because he's got a million. He's got.
He only
16
travels the
businesses.
country and does
Yeah,
everything.
he travels the country. He's the mayor of Savannah. So he doesn't do any of the QC on that side. I mean, he does the proofreading on the backs and slips and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, then I got to work with the editors. I got to work, and then I have notes too. It's like, man, maybe that doesn't really work. This text isn't good. This doesn't flow right. Maybe take this scene out. So yeah, we were announcing stuff we were currently working on, and this is just not a good way to do business. So we're not going to announce, as Ryan said in a post, we're actually not announcing any new titles until, Inferno, The Jar, Newly Deads, What Happens Next, Game of Killers. I think that's it. Are actually on their way to us, or they're shipping like now. And that's the goal. So once we kind of get those out the door, then we can get into 2024's announcements. And honestly, all it does is going to rack up more titles at once, because we still have the titles locked and loaded, ready to go. It's just that we're just going to sit on them until we're caught up. So it's like nothing's like stalling. It's not like, oh, we're not going to, like, we may not have, like, we didn't announce anything in December, and we're probably not going to announce anything in January, but that's going to be 2 months of releases that are pushed to like February and March. So that's kind of like how we're going to handle things. And then if, the good thing is if, we have typically, like you said, 3 to 6 titles a month that we want to do. If something doesn't work, we could switch one out, we can rearrange it, or we just push it on to the next month. It's still going to get released. And yeah, that's kind of like how the flow has been going. And part of that, and it's not a complaint or a bitch or a pity party, is that, our work really is like how soon we can do things is based on what we sell. Like, that's just how it is. Like, we're not like, other companies that have millionaires like funding their fucking company. We're not that. It's literally myself, Ryan, and Chloe, and a bunch of fucking freelancers that we have to pay. And like everything we pay for, we don't do anything in house. I learn how to do things, but we always hire, freelancers and stuff like that. So they have to be paid. And like, we can't pay for a scan or pay for shipping of a scan. We can't pay our colorist unless stuff's making money. So it's just that if you see something you want to buy, just buy it. Maybe don't wait. Because it's just going to help us fund more projects, because that's, I mean, the company, in a way, with how we release things and how things go, is that it's a paycheck, like living paycheck to paycheck. And anything that we do, just it funnels into more releases. It funnels into paying off, the last piece, the last 20% of a license deal or something, and then we're actually able to do those titles. So that's why, like, some of the stuff that we were hoping that some of the stuff that we announced, like in May, that would actually get people to maybe sign up and like become a clubber and maybe buy titles and whatnot. And it really didn't do anything. It was trying to motivate people, but I just think it's too small. We're too young in order to think that people are going to like catch on. I just think a lot of people maybe doubt, what we were doing or trying to do, which I don't fault them for, because it's like, who the fuck is TerraVision? Why, I mean, I would do the same thing as like, I would be with a company that just came out of the woodwork and say, hey, we're doing, a 4K edition of The Keep. And it's like, who the fuck are you? Like, who the fuck is this shit? So, it's like one of those things where it's, you want to try to grasp on to kind of what the audience wants. Hopefully they grasp on to what and plus we're also very like, our label's kind of schizophrenic in the sense of like branding, which I get too is maybe a little bit off kilter for people, because it's like, oh, this all isn't like 80s horror, it's like, this is from today, like this is a contemporary movie, this is a shot on video movie from the 80s, this is a shot on video movie from the 90s, this is a digital movie from 2007. They're mastering beta SPs instead of film because the film element, like, I get it, like it's just kind of all over the place, but the whole point of the label is to exercise the right for these movies to actually have a platform and be released, because a lot of labels were just ignoring it for a long time. It's like, oh, no film elements, no thank you. And it's like, well, that's not a way to be.
I think we should probably highlight that real quick, and that is the fact that the changes that were happening to delay some of these are really because the people behind the scenes here right now are fully passionate about this. We want the same thing that everybody complaining about on the forums wants. We want all these things delivered as fast as possible. We want everybody to get the best releases possible. It is backed by passion, backed by people that love all of this stuff. So it's primarily just what is the best product we can get out, on the cheapest price for TerraVision, to be fair, but also to give everybody exactly what they want on so many of these releases. And some of the delays have helped a couple of the releases. I mean, one of the big things we should probably talk about before the one that you just announced yesterday, Inferno, got some upgrades after that was announced, right?
Yeah. So Inferno, we actually have another update. Well, not an update, but kind of a tease tomorrow. I think we're going to do, or at least this week. So yeah, I mean, Inferno was one of those things where we always wanted to give kind of the best presentation. And I know a lot of people were kind of shitting on the Redwood Creek, restoration. And I think those guys did a good job for what they had. I mean, I don't think people understand that you're dealing with a film that's over 100 years old.
Yeah.
But when you deal with film that's over 100 years old, or you deal with anything that's like, pre-code, or, stuff from like the 30s and 40s even, there's like some labs won't touch that film because of, chemicals and nitrate, and like it becomes fucking explosive. And it's also delicate. Like, a lab's not going to be like, oh, you want to borrow the Inferno print? Let me send it to you. You want it UPS? No, that's not
15,000 miles.
happen, like, I mean, that print is probably worth like 30, 40, $50,000. It's not something you're going to find on eBay, I mean, you could buy a print, like prints you could pay cheap, like $500 for certain prints, but you're not going to find something like that, like at a fucking yard sale or a dumpster. If you do, you better get it out because it's probably going to cause a fucking fire. But anyways, we did see a lot of people like trashing that. And, I can speak for a couple things, is that one, they did put that like on a BD25. It was a BDR, wasn't pressed. When you do that type of thing, and I'm not talking negatively of Redwood Creek because they're super independent themselves. And it's just, pressing a disc is fucking expensive.
Yep.
And doing a BDR is obviously a lot cheaper. That's why even MGM has like a made on demand program with Amazon, and some other companies do that too. But when you do that, it does like have some inherent issues with the picture. It can alter it, and I think partially that's what happened. So we took that version, and we were always going to do another one, and that was the black and white altered version that we worked on, and we did that. and then it was like one of those other things that we tried to get. So we were like, okay, well, let's try to make it definitive. What else can we do? So there was a a restoration done in like 2007 that we were able to get, which is not, it's pretty low res, so it's not great, but it was one of the DVDs that was out there. And the other one was from the Cineteca in Italy that did it in 2021. They did one in 2011 and it looked really good, and they redid it in 2021. And they did it from a collection of prints that they were able to obtain, and then also used a reference print that was hand tinted. And that gave me the idea. I was like, okay, what if we actually have the raw scan from the lab, and we actually replicate the hand tinted version, because the hand tinted version is pretty dope. Like has cyan, it has blue, it has all these different colors, and I was like, well, what if we just like did that? And that's what we started the process in doing, and it is a terrible idea, but we're still doing it. And that just took us a little bit more time. And we tried getting the Cineteca restoration, but they just have no interest in putting on home video. And
Right.
okay, I can't make them do it. But we wanted to include that as well. We wanted to try to have everything, because it is a beautiful piece. And they did have, I think they were able to do it from, I think, 3 prints that they had that they obtained, which I don't know how I mean, they're overseas, and this stuff is a lot more prominent over there. We're not going to find copies of fucking Inferno in
Right.
the US half the time. It's going to be in Italy, France, stuff like that, where the film was heavily distributed. So that said, we tried to make it the most definitive as possible, and then having, 3 scores and whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, we'll have 4 different ways to watch the movie, from 4 different types of, between restoration and color and whatnot. It has 3 scores, 2 of which are brand new, that were made, that haven't been heard before, unless I guess you looked up Mike's like live performance that he did on YouTube, which that's how I found Mike Kiker, is that he had a live score he posted on YouTube, and I thought it was beautiful, and then Haley did hers for Great Face, which is cadence. So we have, the 3 scores. There's a historical commentary on it, and then there's going to be like a small booklet that's included. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty fabulous package, and it was, in this whole process was not fucking cheap, and for a public domain movie that you can literally pull up the page on Wikipedia about it, and it's embedded into the website, you can watch the movie. It was a very ambitious idea, but the thing is that with me, I've been a huge fan of like the Lumiere brothers, and like George Méliès, and a lot of these early silent films, and art house and experimental films, like from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And it was just like an opportunity to do something creative, like create new scores and see what we could do with the picture. And yeah, I just hope people dig that. I know, like, you want the movie and stuff, but at the same time, like, we want to make things close to perfect as we can.
Right.
And it's hard to watch like a silent movie with no music, and we also wanted, when you rewatch a movie, maybe you can watch this other version instead, and kind of give that a spin, and play a new score. Because the thing is, you want to listen to, well, hopefully somebody wants to listen to all 3 scores and the commentary. Well, you don't want to watch the same picture. Maybe you want to see the variety, and that's kind of the idea behind it. So that QC process is going to be a lot of fun, but we're going to speed it up. We're at a different capacity now. Plus, we're focusing on like these like next 5 titles, which one of which is completely done and on its way, and then the other stuff will be done relatively soon. So we'll have a better maybe update soon enough. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. The jar that was a big color issue. We just wanted to get the best color. I think we're putting two versions of that on the disc, so you'll have a low contrast version and a high contrast version, because it was one of those things where the film's never actually been seen in its like glory, and the print was faded, so we had one where we were like, okay, well, this is like the first like couple passes, like this is the color, and then it was like one of those things where the movie's really colorful, and we were just like, well, how faded is the print? Like, let's like fucking crank it up a tiny bit. And it's super fucking cranked, and it looks like, a painting in each frame. But at times it's like, okay, maybe it's a little too much. So let's put two versions on the film, because the thing is like, I personally think that 80% of the people that watch movies don't have their TVs calibrated correctly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do two different versions of the movie. Because when we do QC, we watch on different things. Like first, I watch it on my laptop. I watch it on my phone. I also watch it on a generic TCL 55-inch that I have in our like family living room, and then I have an LG C3 that I project, which is like literally top of line television, and I do all of those because I think I got my bases covered.
Yeah.
And when I watch it on my TCL, it doesn't look that great. But when if I also change, I don't mean that it doesn't look that great. I'll change the settings to like, because a lot of people put their television on Vivid, which I think is very funny. And you're not actually supposed to put your TV on Vivid, because they're like, oh, the colors pop. That's not what you're supposed to do. So when you do that, your colors, like if you do have something bright, it just looks like a fucking mess.
Yeah.
And like everybody looks like they have fucking sunburn, so turn your televisions off Vivid. Don't put them on gamer mode. Typically cinematic, that's what you're supposed to use, because that's actually what it's made for film. And the bigger TV, the more expensive TV you go, I would highly recommend looking at YouTube videos and comparisons of what this looks like. Because when I got my LG C3, I was like, there's like 6 million settings, and I was like, oh my god. Like I actually had to watch tutorials and look, because I was like, how do I get this perfect? And they actually had like all the settings and whatnot and different things. So I got it perfect in there. And so, QCing on that, which, I have that. So I said, I QC on other things. So I'm like, okay, it looks like this on one screen, it looks like this on another. So I want the bases covered. So, having a film so dark, but so colorful, I think that's probably the right process with the jar. So that way, if somebody's like, oh my God, why does everything look so blue to the point it's white? We'll just switch to low contrast version and it'll look a little bit better, So we try to look out. Like I can't be a jackass and be on the forums and say, fucking calibrate your television. People just, I don't think they understand that. It's the same thing as like, I'll still go over to friends' houses and they'll put the fucking TV on and they got the goddamn motion smoother on.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you not look at the movie and realize that it looks different?
It's so bad.
So, and honestly, I think most people have that, and also it depends on the DVD players. Like Toshiba players, they kind of suck, they really kind of turn out colors pretty hard. Sony players are pretty dependable, pretty good. My dog is snoring. So if you hear that, that's my dog snoring at my legs. So, we try to take, not that is the definitive answer that what we do on our discs, but it is something that we are aware of. And so we try to ride that fine line, because what will happen, this is just me, maybe I'll talk a little shit, is that you'll have one person that doesn't know what they're talking about go on a forum and say, oh, this is a botched release, the color's all fucked up. And then and you'll see it. And I'll compare it to national tragedies. Anytime there's a shooter, there's always 2 or 3 shooters, right?
Yep.
There's more than it's because they immediately latch on to the first thing they hear, and they're like, oh, this must be true. This must be it. And then they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and so on and so on. And this is what happens exactly in the fucking forums: is that somebody that maybe doesn't know what they're talking about uses words that they don't really know what it means, and they say all these things, and then before you know it, there's a replacement disc coming. And nothing is actually wrong with the movie, and it happens all the time. So we try, and that's why mainly that we're online. We don't really care to be in these forums and stuff all that much, but we try to get the facts straight and be in there. I mean, there
Right.
are a lot of lovely people in these forums, but there's like this group that really like latches on to things that aren't maybe wrong, or really not an issue. And I'm not saying it's all the time. There's rightfully so, there's things to complain about, like the Coffin Joe set, I heard has the subtitle drop out. That's
Yep.
obviously an issue, so it needs to be set. But yeah, I was seeing some others, and people compare it to DVDs sometimes. They're like, well, on the DVD, the color looks this way. Well, how do you know the DVD is right?
Right.
You're going to trust a bootleg DVD from Italy? Like,
Exactly.
that wasn't color timed properly? That's the right answer? If anything, it's the VHS that would probably be correct. Not a DVD. Because the VHS would be closer to what, would probably been supervised, by the filmmakers themselves. So it's like one of those things that they'll go by what the DVD is. And how do you know that's right? There's only a couple ways to realize what is right. One, your DP or your director looking and supervising. But even that can be wrong sometimes because the
Oh
director
yeah.
wants to change something or maybe doesn't remember all that much. The other safest thing to do is a print,
Right.
because the print more than likely 100% of the time is going to be correct. And that's what we reference when we do our color timing. And that's why the jar looks the way it does, because we had a print of the jar. Srigala, there was a print of Srigala, so we were able to color time off of that. It's the same thing with Escape from Hellhole. I'm trying to think of any other on Killer was the same. I mean, Tony supervised Killer, so he knew exactly. I mean, he was super intelligent and smart, and he's like, if we put this on Blu-ray, it looks all snowy. He's like, people are going to complain, and I was like, that's fine. Snow is fine. Let's not take that out. That's fucking grain, and let's keep it. So yeah, that's typically what we do is we, try to get a print for reference, because that's the closest way that you're going to be able to color time anything properly. And honestly, a lot of smart companies do that. VHS and Laserdisc, those are the two go-tos. Laserdisc is perfect. Yeah,
Yep.
because typically those are director approved, especially the old Criterion stuff and whatnot. But yeah, I'll see that all the time. It's like my DVD from Italy in 2002 looks better than the Blu-ray that this company put out, and it's like, does it though? Like, is that that's what you're just used to? That doesn't
Right.
mean it's correct. So that's one of the reasons. We try to stay on top of this stuff from anything being said that's not true. It's the same thing as there is some dude like on Reddit who literally trashes us like anytime TerraVision pops up, he has to say something. And he literally goes by his copy of End of the Line. He said looks like shit. And I'm like, it doesn't.
Right.
It really doesn't. And he was like, the transfer's crap. And I was like, dude, it's fucking shot digitally. There's literally no transfer. It's a digital file that is basically that supervised by the director. Maurice did it himself. It is reprocessed and revamped and like it's digital is a whole different type of animal. And that's something I am learning a lot more about, is the digital kind of restoration for digital films that are older. And I was like, the thing is that's one title that we've gotten so much positive feedback on.
Yep.
You're literally the only person shitting on it. I was like, and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But he, like, anytime someone brings up TerraVision, he calls us a fancier Mill Creek, which I think is really funny. He's called us a fancier Mill Creek, and he said something else. He said we're too new, and I don't understand what that means. But yeah, I was like, yeah, the one thing I can stand behind is what we've done. And if you want to like say, oh, Shrek looks bad, well, yeah, because it's shot on fucking VHS and mastered on 3M tape, and like they did it on a home video camera. Like
Super
they're
dark.
kids,
Yeah.
Of course it looks not great, but it looks better than it ever has. You know, and then a couple people like were talking about American Nightmare online, and that was fine because that was somebody who was like, what did they do here? Because it doesn't look like a normal 2K scan of like a 16. I was like, well, yeah, because it was scanned years and years ago in 2K. The lab lost the negative. John was heartbroken. The lab that did the 2K scan didn't do a good job, so he went through and he enhanced it. So it has a little filmic look. It looks good, but does it look like a 2K scan of a 16 millimeter negative? Like, it looks
Right.
great. Not exactly. But if we didn't do that, you ain't gonna have nothing. Or you'll have like a tape that is like transferred or something like that. And I think he did a really, really good job because he supervised all of that. So,
Well, and since the last podcast, you've announced things that are exciting for a myriad of reasons, and one that got another upgrade in the last week that we should probably talk about. Game of Killers, man, this is turning into a pretty incredible release.
yeah. Well, originally Game of Killers was going to be a Beta SP master because when we acquired the stuff, um, all they had was tapes, and I was like, oh god. I was like, okay, let's do this. We can do a couple. Let's do a couple tapes. So, basically, it's like just kind of going down the line of each one, and yeah, the print came um, from China, and it was not well. The print was expensive. Getting it here was or the print was cheap, but getting it here was expensive. It actually kind of sucked. But it was just like I think when we got it, they were like, it's not really usable, and I was like, oh. I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, it smells really bad and it's like leaking. And I was like, okay. I was like, either we can say no or we can like buy it for nothing and then pay a shit ton of shipping and get it here and actually see what's wrong with it.
Right.
So that's what we did. And it was Game of Killers was pink. They were able to clean it. It was fine. It was super deteriorated, super duper scratched up, but it was pink. And they scanned it, and I looked at it, and I was like, okay. Like, I don't, like, I spoke to I was like, to the colorist, I was like, so is this like we can do it? Like we can, and they're like, yeah, let's see. And so they pulled up, like we pulled up some VHS of it, and that didn't help us. And we were just like, we're like, okay, so how do we reference this? And luckily the dude that's our colorist, he's like, I don't know how old he is, but I think he's older. Because he's been around for a bit. And he was like, when we used to do these, he was like, I kind of know the look of these kind of like Taiwanese, like, chopsocky, films. And I said, okay, so we did like 3 passes on it. And the first pass, I was like, "Oh my god, this is great! Let's use it." And he's like, "No, let's keep going." So like, he kept pushing and pushing, and then I looked at it, like, this is fucking beautiful. It looks
Yeah.
so good. And and yeah, you'll look at it and it's like, man, this is fucking rough. Yeah, it's rough, but if I I don't know where else to find some of these movies because like they're unheard of. Like they're really gone. Like you might find like rips of them on YouTube and stuff, but like they're super blown out as far as
Yep.
the color. Like they're super faded. Like there's no literally no point of reference on the tapes. And yeah, it was like we're able to pull it off, and then we had. Yeah, we put together the movie, and then I was working with Pearl Chan, who's this very very much a sweetheart at Conning Releasing, and I was like, hey, can you help me find Barry Chan? And she was like, yeah. She's like, that should be easy. He's pretty like well known over here. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I couldn't find anything on him, but I didn't know if the dude is still alive. And apparently he's very, very active. And
Yeah.
his name, and I think I told you this. They asked about Barry Chan, and he was like, who the fuck's Barry Chan?
Right. Because
He's
it's not
never
his
heard
name he
the name
goes by.
Barry Chan his entire life. Like we told him he was called Barry Chan in these movies. He literally had no idea until we did the interview. And so, yeah, we were talking about that, and then I said to Pearl, I was like, because these movies are all dubbed, obviously, and they use soundtracks from every type of movie you can imagine. Please don't sue us.
Including the Pink Panther.
A lot of Pink Panther. So I asked Pearl, I was like, I would really, really like to get the original track, but I have no idea. Like,
Right.
Labs in China, like all the prints that were probably around were dubbed. Like, it was their like original language. I mean, obviously they didn't speak English and they spoke their language, but did they record audio? Like,
Right.
I don't even know if they did that. And so Pearl did some digging, and like 3 weeks later, she's like, hey, this was on tape apparently in China, and there's this like super sketchy site that we can go to and extract the audio. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I can't read Chinese. Like the website's not even translating.
Yeah.
Like I was in Google and I was like hitting translate and it was not working. And I was like, I don't know where to click. And then we were able to extract that audio, and I was like, fuck, this is great. And then I was like, all right. So I put it in the timeline and it's all off. And I was like, oh, let's just move it. So moved it. And then after 1 second, it's off again. And then another second. And I was like, okay. So Justin Beam, I was like, you want a project? And I was like, I think the movie needs to be re-edited, like in a way, not like moved around, but it needs to be synced up, but it might need a re-edit.
Yeah.
And it took probably about a month, just like how I'm like editing a real movie, sitting down and doing it. And it was like I think like 1.5 seconds it would go off because the tape was obviously a very different frame rate. It's like a 5 minute difference, and you got to spread that out, in like basically seconds. So yeah, that whole thing needed to be redone, and that's why we didn't announce it until it was finished. I was like, I'm not saying shit until this is in, because I don't want to announce something and then it's like, wow, we just really can't do this. It's just too much, like literally too much work.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot of work. And, but yeah, I mean, the audio is not great, but we ran it through a couple things and made it sound the best it can, but it's their original language. And then we had a subtitle, which took another, little bit, because it was like, and it was so funny because I was saying, I was like, I don't really think they're talking like this.
Right.
And she not, the guy came back with me the other day and he was like, it's like 85% correct. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, they are that goofy when they make these movies. Like, I just thought it was the U.S. just saying, "Oh, we don't understand Chinese, so let's fucking say this." Um, but yeah, it's been a fun project, and it looks good. And we cut a new trailer, we got an interview, a visual essay, and two lines of audio. And then we had a shorter version of the movie, but we decided to mix that because it's kind of pointless, and we wanted to really kind of focus on like the original audio. So you
Yeah.
you have two ways. You have the original dub, and I think the music's the same. A lot of Pink Panther, Morcone. I don't know. I use a lot of shit. Some of this stuff I was like, I've heard this before. But that's just part of like how they made movies. It's kind of crazy though. It's just like
Right.
no bar. They were just like copyright. What is that?
But
But
just to get
anyways.
Barry on this disc is so cool that you got a brand new interview with him. I mean, he's supposedly still been active. When we were researching for that essay, he's been, still teaching martial arts and all kinds of stuff. The dude is just
Yeah,
a
he's still very
legend.
active. He's very with it. He's you know, he doesn't like. I guess he does like some interviews like in Taiwan and China, but he does a couple movies here and there. But apparently, he's still like pretty popular
Yeah.
over there. But I mean, I forget the name, but I asked him, came up with Barry Chan, and he was like, I have no idea what you're fucking talking about. Like who's Barry Chan? He's like, I have two names. It's this and this, and I was like, that's not Barry Chan. So it's just funny that your career 50 years goes by and you've never heard. I guess he doesn't give a shit or watch any of the U.S. versions of his movies. But yeah, Barry Chan does not exist. I guess it's kind of racist.
Yeah, kind of.
It's like, who's this guy? Blah blah blah. Nah, fuck it, Barry Chan. That's exactly, I guess, how they did it. And but yeah, but oh well. We correct it. We give the story in the interview, so that's good.
One of the things that I really wanted to highlight as we had this conversation tonight too is just there's been a lot of change, TerraVision learning and growing, and a lot of innovation. And this new year is exciting. I'm so eager to see everybody's response to what you have coming this year and the amount of work that is being poured into every one of these releases. You want to tell us about some of the changes that's been going on and what we're leading towards?
Yeah, so there's a lot of crazy shit coming in this year, and I think there's still a lot of people underestimate what we're doing,
Oh
and
yeah.
they really have no idea like how big we're gonna like get with our movies. And I know it's gonna happen because we're gonna announce something. They're really like, "Fucking Terrorvision got this." Like, how can that fucking be? And it's just like, well, I've been in this industry for a long time, like,
Yep.
and I know where certain things were. Like, I wanted certain films for other labels. It just didn't work out, you know. And we're still never gonna deviate from the brand. We're still gonna have shot on video movies and fucking weird shit, but we're also gonna have like a lot of other cool shit. Some newer films. You know. We're jumping into a lot of like mainstream blockbusters that are older. We did a couple like studio deals. We did a Paramount deal. So we have quite the array of films, and a few surprises in the beginning of the year, and like expect the unexpected type thing. And it's going to be films, for sure. It's not going to be like a fucking Zazo collection or anything like that. Which is good, by the way. And the thing is like the reviews have finally started coming in for Zazo, and they're like, "This is cute," and I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly why we put it
Exactly.
out. It's a kid making movies more than I've ever fucking done." You
Right.
know, he made 4 movies from the age of 13 to 18. That's incredible. You know, they're not meant to be good. You know, they're meant to be fucking fun.
Right.
Yeah. So like, we're still always going to have stuff like that. We're still always going to be weird. Um, but the weird aspect is not about the movies per se. It is kind of that like hodgepodge, like kitchen sink. Like we want to do everything. You know, like I think I said this by like year 3 of being on our own. Well, I want to have every genre like in our catalog because we do like every genre, you know,
Yeah.
and I've tried explaining to people as much as possible, like online. It's like we do not operate in a capacity of like package deals or we blindly acquire stuff. You know, we've turned down a lot of films, you know, and especially in package deals with like a studio or something. They're like, do you want this too? And it's like, no, that movie
Right.
sucks. Like, I don't want to do that, you know. And I don't give a shit if it has a fan base. If I don't like it, then I don't want it on the label, you know. And that's kind of like how we operate because it's one of those things that we want to curate. And you know, when it's kind of like one of those things where it's like how do I say this in a like not jackassy way? When people ask like what would you recommend when they say that like in a group, it's like well you just ask the label owners because they're the ones that did it. Like you
Right.
know, I know some labels like you know nothing against them, but like Kino literally grabs whatever they can. You
Yeah.
know, there's zero curation on there. And I know Frank does a good job and Frank's a good guy and everything, but there literally is like, let's just do it. You know,
It would be
it's
impossible
like,
to curate 250 titles a year.
yeah, yeah. It's just like you know, there's nothing behind it, and with us, you know, you know we put a lot of work into each and every release. Every title is going to have you know numerous extras if we can. But yeah, I mean, we have some newer contemporary stuff that we just acquired. You know, some you know a lot of foreign titles. You know, some V cinema. We have you know, like I said, some big blockbuster movies. We have some Oscar nominated movies. Like we have, um, we just signed a weird ass movie today. But it was just like it's just kind of like everything that we love and want to do. It can be part of the label, and yeah, I think we're going to take a lot of people by surprise with what we have, and I just hope people vibe with it. You know, and we're always going to be weird and have the weird and obscure stuff because that's what we grew up on. You know, that's what I love. You know, but I love everything. You know, like I said, there's no limits to TerraVision, and there's like nothing off limits either. Like we're gonna do it, and I hope, yeah, I just hope people, you know, I think my dog's leg fell asleep, so he's like freaking out. You okay, buddy? So yeah, we just I just hope, like I said, people vibe with the weirdness and in kind of what we're going to do, and yeah, we just like some of the stuff we've been working on and trying to get out the door. I mean, everything we announced previously is still happening. But one of those things is that so it's like stuff that we were going to do in the future because we were already working on certain things that we haven't announced yet.
Right.
And we were kind of hoping that, you know, things would kind of really take off with those like previous announcements as far as like, you know, subbing and whatnot. And like, you know, even like cutting deals to where, you know, if you sub, you can put in a code and you get, you know, some like get you like $25 off or something like that.
Yeah.
And we wanted, you know, that to really kind of catch on. And I just think it's kind of a trust thing, and we are too new and too little and too small for people to realize that. So a lot of the stuff that we announced, we're still doing. It's just it's going to take a bit because you know we need money to pay for it. So please, you know, if you have anything that's sitting in the cart, just purchase it because it will get you, you know, stuff like Gator bait a lot sooner. You know, which you know it's like one of those things that it's going to take time because this is a very, very expensive business, especially when we do it right. You know?
Right. And that's
Um,
the big thing is so many of these are getting literally like a stacked disc with so many new extras that the QC is overwhelming. But beyond that, we want the package that you're receiving to be, oh my God, like I got more than my money's worth when I open this up. And for some of these, I cannot wait to see how people respond to them online. They're, some of my favorite titles that I've loved for years going to be getting some incredible attention.
yeah. And I think, I don't know. I hope that when people get slashers, they'll maybe understand a little bit more because maybe they should have got that with Copperhead. But I don't think a lot of people bought like Copperhead for the extras,
Right.
where they didn't want to watch it. But yeah, slashers is. I mean, honestly, there's a lot. I mean, slashers. There's so many extras. Killer has a ton of extras. Um, you know, uh, when you break it down, like something the Joe Zazo collection, there's 4 commentaries. There's 2 versions of the way to watch a movie. There's cast and crew interviews. There's director and composer interviews. There's interviews with Zazo. Like even Hell's Highway. I think Hell's Highway is pretty stacked alone because it has a bunch of archival extras, and then some new stuff, like 4 new interviews, and yeah, it's. I'm trying to think of like some other stuff. Um, the jar is actually pretty stacked. It has 2 commentaries. Gary, we shot Gary at the Music Box when we screened there. There's like 2 making ofs. There's stills gallery that has a lot of stills because they were able to get like 3 different people like contribute to. You want to say hello, buddy? You want to say? Yeah. It's Winton. Hey, buddy. It's Winston, but I call him Winton because he's a little boy. He's got a bow tie on. So does that
It's
help sell
perfect.
movies? Can you help sell some movies, buddy? Say that I was rescued from the sheriff's department. I was on the train tracks and you saved me, right? You don't give a shit. Um, but yeah, if anybody cares, if it helps sell any movies, I have rescued 4 dogs from various conditions, and they have the greatest home. But as soon as they see the door open, they try to run away from it all.
And boy, are they loud.
But yeah, it's a lot of extras are going on. We're shooting a bunch of stuff. We're recording a bunch of stuff. We have a lot of involvement from you, which is cool. Just a lot of stuff going on, and yeah, I sometimes I wish I was one of those companies that had 60 employees so we could be a little bit more organized. But then your hands are off on certain things and then
Right.
you don't control it. And, at this point, I don't know if I could ever go back to just being like, oh, just do like these 2 things.
Yeah.
I gotta oversee it all. And, yeah, it's like everything goes through me. And it's really annoying sometimes. It's like the part of my job that I really do hate sometimes. And it's
Right.
like, I let it build up and it's like, okay, I got to do this today. This sucks. Um, I know people are like, oh man, it's the best job you probably have. Like, sometimes, we also have a pretty big thing happening in March that we haven't announced yet because we want to see it happen before we say anything because we don't want to fucking jinx it. But we have it's not really a surprise to the customers. It's more like a thing for us, like a huge, huge win. If you're a club or anything, nothing like don't worry. Even if you're watching, like it's not going to really affect you. It's just something really cool for TerraVision to be a part of, and once we actually see it happen, which it's in the process, we know it's going to happen, but We also, this is how we lived 2023, where we thought a lot of stuff was going to happen and it
Yep.
didn't. Or it was delayed, so we just never said anything, or we said something too soon.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that are definitely going to be different this year than 2023. I think 2023 was a really good growth year, really good learning year, but man, I think some people are going to be pleasantly surprised by when you look back at the slate in December of 2024 and go, holy shit, they did it this year.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, if there's any year for TerraVision, this should be it. Because this is like firing on all cylinders, and like if we literally don't like are able to like fund the next few years from like 2024, then we might need to close up shop. But I mean, dude, we had 2 UHDs this year.
Yeah.
And that is something that a lot of labels can't achieve. And yeah, they're new digital films, but we did UHD, and that was a huge learning process. I had no idea the like legal stuff that comes behind doing UHDs, like contractual. And I was like, I just, we sent it off to the duplication, and they're like, "Hey, do you have this permit?" And I'm like, "For a movie?" And it's like this whole fucking process, and every unit costs money to manufacture. And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was sick. I had COVID in Austin, and I get the call, and I was feeling like shit. It was like my worst day, and I get a call, and I was like, "Hey man, we can't do this until you get this done." And I was like, "I don't even know how to do that. I don't even know that's a thing."
Right.
So we actually figured it out within like 24 hours, and we're able to do a contract and get rights from like Sony to do UHD, and it's like you had to like fucking pay for everything. And I was just like, "Oh, this is why people don't do UHD." Very, very easy why. I understand why they're like, UHD, skip it. But yeah, I mean, as a new company, having 2 UHDs with HDR color grading, I mean, I thought that was kind of a tremendous feat, like it was.
And they're both getting good reviews everywhere. I should throw that out there.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
both getting pretty rave reviews across the board.
So I was pretty happy with that, because it was, one, we went back and did the UHD, because we were just given a 2K file on it, and I just happened to ask. They were like, "Yeah, we still have the 4K master." I was like, "Oh shit." Well, I was like, "Well, let's see what we could do," and that was when the streaming starts, and we did that. And Connor was really grateful, and he went back into the studio. He was like, "I really don't want to watch this movie ever again, but sure." Because he thought he was done with it. But yeah, when the streaming starts in Malin, that was like, I felt really good when those actually came out, because I was like, shit, man, like that's cool. We're able to do that, because that's something that I never thought we would be able to pull off. And two, it is a huge undertaking financially to do UHD. And I hope they continue to sell. They could still do better, because it's a lot of recoupment on that side of things. And we also learned a bunch about UHD, and so we have 2 UHDs that we're working on that will be in the first quarter. And that's really exciting. So I'll say that because it's been announced. And I'll give a little hint, is that Nail Gun Massacre will be UHD, which we haven't disclosed yet. Because we took our time and we found some other film material, and we're able to do UHD. So that will be if everything comes together with archival extras, that will be pretty cool because we can actually call that the definitive release because it literally cannot get any better. Because we're going back from all like different Blu-ray releases, and it was a movie that we really liked, and yeah, it was like it's been on Blu-ray twice, from Code Red and then 88 Films. And so yeah, while we're doing extras, we're still searching for film material, and we were able to find some film material and actually pull out enough information out of it to do UHD. So yeah, Nail Gun will be 4K UHD. Fingers crossed. When the pre-order goes up, then so no pre-order right now, no pre-order right now, because who knows, something might fucking happen and we can't do it. But I think it's done. I think it is done. The color grading. So yeah, Nail Gun will be a UHD, and then we have another title that's a. This is really funny. It's a lost film that hasn't been on VHS or DVD. I think they self-distributed VHS themselves, so it's not a legitimate release. And that's getting 4K UHD, and it's hilarious. But they had the negative, and we were able to. It was in really, really good shape, and we were able to do it. And yeah, and that's currently almost done, I think. So that should be UHD. I'm pretty sure, and it should be probably April. So we'll have 2 UHDs in April. And Happy Hell Night's still happening. We had a lot of issues with the scan, so we're trying. We were told UHD is not possible, but we're going back and seeing what we can do. So, not saying we're not going to do it on UHD, but we're trying our best. So that will be delayed. But it was initially delayed because we were looking for the original cut called Blood Rush. Because Happy Hell Night has a spooky, basically, background of how they made a movie. Producers were unhappy, had them reshoot with a new cast, but some of the crew stayed on, and then it became a different movie. So they had this movie complete in the can, done, called Blood Rush, and then they were just like, nope, reshoot it, do this story, change the script a little bit. And that's what we ended up with Happy Hell Night. And I'm still hell bent on finding this original. I've never seen it. If we had a tape, we would do that. I'm sure there's no film material for it anymore. But yeah, we're still in the middle of calling labs in fucking Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia and stuff, because it's somewhere over there. And we're just looking for anything that any material for it. And then that's why we delayed it. And then we were just like, okay, well, maybe let's start on this. And I was just like, hey, this actually kind of fucked up. We might not be able to do it. And I'm like, well, that's fucking great. So, but we're still working on it. It's definitely not a no. But Happy Hell Night is still happening regardless. It's just, taking a lot longer. See all the stuff that we announced, but our next batch of titles isn't really any of that stuff that we announced previously. Right. There's a couple titles in there, but it's mainly just working on extras and making things a little bit better, and what we're able to do. And then yeah, January, February, we have another massive announcement that we're gonna say. We just have to present it perfectly so there's no misunderstanding. But we have a pretty big thing in January that we're announcing that we're super duper excited about at TerraVision. So yeah, it's just a lot of stuff going on. I think people will be happy. I hope so. If you like movies, you're going to be happy. If you don't like movies, you're probably going to hate it. That's what I said.
From the August batch, we've gotten quite a few that have been able to be pre-ordered already, but there's still a lot left. Are there any others that you want to give any guesstimations on the timeline or updates on special features or anything that's just a cool tease of what's to come for this year for some people?
Oh, this year?
just from those August batches that we got last year, because there's still,
Oh, is that when we
gosh,
announced it in August? We didn't. Oh,
yeah.
that's we got announced in August, not May.
Gatorbait 2, Hollowgate's coming. Maybe the next City Lights catalogs titles. Papatopoulos, Black Cobra 1 and 2. Children of Violet Rome, Tiger Joe. We could talk about the Kirk Douglas video scrapbook. That's an inside joke for anybody listening.
It's one of the City Lights movies. Yeah. That was so fucking funny. But yeah, well, yeah, the City Light stuff's coming along. It's mainly like interviews and stuff because we got a lot of people that don't want to participate, so it kind of sucks.
Right.
So that's kind of delayed those. But I mean, we got Hollowgate and Newly Dead's out. We don't know. We have a couple potential titles. What's going to be next? But nothing like concrete. Papatopoulos has turned out to be like a monstrosity. Like, well, that's the thing is like if you release a documentary, how many times? I mean, Papatopoulos is pretty rewatchable, But I was like, let's like, I mean, it's such. There's so much content on that disc, and we're still trying to work through it. But we're almost there. We should be able to have an answer. Hopefully by I would say maybe the end of the week I'll have a better handle on everything because it's just so much. I mean, between new interviews and archival stuff and stuff that was just that they had that they just never used, like on the DVD and stuff. So yeah, it was so funny when you said that an email popped up from Clay.
Nice.
But yeah, we have interviews with Jim Wynorski, Monique Parent, Clay. There's 2 commentaries on the disc. There's hopefully, I think we're going to be able to do it, but there's a work print of the movie that we're going to be able to include. There's like just random extras like premiere stuff. There's like stuff from the DVD. Like extensive, not extensive, but extended footage of Jim's mom, like her interview, which is like super duper adorable. So yeah, and Langston Ball, who's the sound guy on the film, we have like extended stuff of them. So we're just trying to piece it together, and everything will be through Clay's approval. So we're just kind of waiting on that. But Papatopoulos will probably be a like a pretty big like disc, like as far as extras. And that's the reason why it's taken so long on that is because with the new master, because obviously it was like shot digitally. Clay likes to say it was shot on the same camera as episode 1 of Star Wars, same camera. You wouldn't know it, but it was apparently. But yeah, the interview, like, it's such a funny project because it was one of those things where it's a unique movie, and the project is unique behind the scenes because, like, Jim's great. He's a very very nice dude, but he's very abrasive. At times he's just very blunt. He's very truthful. So, and then they're making this nudie movie, right? With just girls' boobs everywhere. So it's a fine line of while editing, that movie was made in like 2007.
Yep.
It's 2024 now. So we want to be like respectful in the sense of like, there's some stuff in the movie where it's like that probably maybe wouldn't fly now, but it's also Jim Wynorski, and so he kind of gets like a free pass at times. But we're also trying to be like respectful of like the behind the scenes footage because there's a lot,
Right.
nudity and stuff. So we're trying to like if it's not in the movie, we're not going to put it in the extras because it was, it's kind of like a voyeuristic type thing. So we're going through some of that stuff. Yeah, we're just, it's a lot. We don't want to make anybody look like an asshole. We want everybody to look cool, presentable, because everybody had a really good time. That's the thing. It's like everybody loves this movie, but Jim. you know, because it shows. It just it's so funny. When people get it, oh man, maybe we'll do that. Have like a little card, a drinking game with it, but you do a shot every time Jim says I hate it. Um, I think there's like a montage in the making of where it's like there's like 10 of them together. I hate it. 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 And then it's like, look at those boobs. But yeah, it's been a really fun project. It's kind of like one of those things where I don't want it to end
Right.
because, like, it's just a lot of fun. It's a very harmless but super sexy kind of documentary. But in Clay, that's the thing, is Clay did such a good job of showing both sides, not making it creepy, not making it voyeuristic. But that's comes across in the extras of how he proceeded that in his commentary. It's very, very apparent. And after all these years, it's probably one of the most rewatchable documentaries
I would
that I've
agree.
seen multiple times because you learn a lot about it. It's actually very like educational on how to make a movie in 3 days. It's also like what not to do, and it's also just super fucking funny because Jim is like for hire to make this movie, and no one really cares about the movie in a way, or how it looks. It's just a cash grab because of during that time period, like with Showtime and Cinemax, of the content they were buying in HBO. They literally just wanted like, hey, can you make a softcore porno?
Yep.
That's what Witches of Brestwick is. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of fun because there's so much like behind the scenes, like Stormy Daniels. She's actually like super duper. I wish we could have interviewed her because
That would have been
she's
amazing.
actually really really funny and smart. Like um, in the doc, and Julie K. Smith is fucking great. Monique Parent, though, I have so much respect for. She like literally like it's so funny. She's like, Jim hires big tit girls to be in their movie, and she's like, I don't have them, so I always get to wear my clothes. you know he uses me because I'm an actress, because I know I can remember dialogue, and there's just so many moments in it, and also the stuff with Jim's mom is fucking great. It's gonna be a really really great release. So I'm super duper excited about it. But yeah, we're putting the final touches on it now. It'll probably be February. Um, it was going to be January, but like I said, we're not really announcing anything until we have everything in house, or everything that we previously announced out. So, but yeah, it should be good to go. The slipcover looks great. It's the original art. But yeah, pop them tops. That's what we're going to be doing.
One thing too that I wanted to highlight that we're going to be doing more is this. So when we are planning on a group of announcements, we're going to be doing a new podcast episode to discuss what's coming out, highlight the films, talk about stories of you getting the films, acquiring the films, why they're super worth it, why the extras are great, and just really get some more engagement with these titles, because it's important to a lot of people nowadays, and it's a lot. And if you are even like temporarily risk adverse to going to blind buy some of these titles, like Papadopoulos, if you've never watched a Jim Wynorski movie, you might not purchase it. But the truth is, yes, it is essential for any Jim Wynorski fan, but it's inspiring for anybody that's ever like desired to make a movie. It's going to be an incredible release just for the amount of extras you're going to get. And we're going to try to give you some of that information every time.
Yeah. There's like a few things that are educational. It's funny on the Newly Dead's disc, the interview with Paul Volk. He very much wanted to do the interview because it was like his very first movie ever edited. But I don't think he talks about Newly Deads on the interview. He just talks about like actual editing, and it's
Right.
super educational. And I was like, just edit this to educational video because he gives kind of the ins and outs of like how to edit and whatnot. And I mean, he talks a little bit about like Joseph and stuff like that, but he doesn't really remember much of Newly Deads. But yeah, the Newly Deads, that was fun because we announced it and we were still kind of waiting on extras. And we ended up having like four interviews for that. And then, commentary with Peaches Christ and Michael Verratti, which I refer
That's super
to
cool.
as sleazy historians or something like that.
Yeah.
I asked, I was like, what do you want to be called? And they're like the Midnight Society podcast or whatever. And I was like, nah, let's do sleazy historians. But yeah, it's a fun disc, and I mean, we put a lot of work into City Lights movies to make them look the best they can, and that's why they take so long. Um, Mayhem, I think, looks probably it's the best. It looks so good. Probably the best looking out of the batch, which is funny because it's the oldest one. But yeah, we've had a good time kind of piecing all that together. Hopefully, we get more extras. It's funny. There's like a lot of you talk to a lot of people. They're really into what you're doing. They just don't want to be a part of it.
Right.
Like it was kind of bummed me out because I, talked to her a few times with Charlotte Driver, who is a huge, like, kind of no pun intended, driving force behind City Lights, and she has the funniest stories on Hollow Gate and why like they're golden retrievers and not Doberman pitchers or something. And she just has this really funny story about the stuntman about it. And it's just like she has hilarious stories about death by dialogue, but she just doesn't want to be on camera, and she doesn't want to do an audio interview, but she'll talk to me about it. I've spoken to her for like probably 4 or 5 hours total. And she's like, you could talk about it on the thing if you want. I'm like, I'm not going to interview myself. This is what Charlotte Driver said about
just
death by
reading a
dialogue.
transcript the whole time.
Yeah, unless like I did a podcast or a commentary or something, and it's some of the women, they just don't want to be on camera because like the they're older,
Right.
But I think we should have a good amount of extras for death by dialogue. I think we should have a good amount of extras. Because Laura Albert's actually a good pal of mine. We've done we've hung out in LA when she's out there. She lives mainly in Hawaii, but she's like one of my favorite stunt people. I think she's great. She's an actress, and she's like kind of a badass. And we've done a couple things together. She's always busy. She's still an active stunt woman. So she, because I think I tried to get her for the Roadhouse disc. Because she's not one of the stunt women, she's a dancer. Because she's also a dancer. I think she's one of like the tabletop dancers that's uncredited in the movie in Roadhouse. You could only see her in a few scenes. I don't remember if I interviewed her or not.
You do too much, Brad.
Huh?
You do too much.
Yeah, the extras on Roadhouse were funny. I think we interviewed. Oh my god, I forget his name. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna talk about fucking Roadhouse. But yeah, Laura Albert's cool. There's a few people that have went on to do bigger things from that film. But yeah, it's just weird because like Munchkin, he likes to do some stuff. So we're interviewing Munchkin. Pepin is like, he doesn't remember too much. Joseph doesn't want to be a part of any of it. He'll talk to me all the time, but he just doesn't want to, like, he's like way past it.
He's doing real estate in Southern California or something now, right?
Fucking billionaire, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, come to my house and we'll fix a bunch of food and I'll fly you out. I'm like, For what? To talk about fucking movies? Like, I want you to do a goddamn interview. Like, you talk to me on the phone,
Right.
and he calls me fucking insane all the time. He's like, you're stupid. He's like, you want to release these trashy movies? And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? Drop that and get into real estate? Yeah, do that instead. And it's like, no, man. Like, movies even created. I'll never forget. I told this story before. One of the conversations we had, he was like, "What's your favorite one?" I'm like, "Dude, Fresh Kill." I was like, "Fresh Kill's great." And he was like, "I'm going to ask you a question. I need you." And he was dead serious. He's like, "I need you to be, I need you to answer me honestly." He's like, "Do you have a mental problem?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, you have a mental problem. Are you okay?" He's like, "No one in the right mind should like these movies, especially Fresh Kill." And I'm like, "Are you fucking with me? You made it, dude." And he's like, "Yeah, because I was fucking insane when I was younger." He's like, but he's so fucking down to earth though. He may be a billionaire, but he's like so fucking chill and just a really nice dude. And the thing is like he has in his screening, he has a big screening room in his house. And he has all these fucking posters of these movies that he made.
That's hilarious.
And and you'll talk about it and he'll like tell all these like crazy stories, like, the PM Entertainment days where they had cops like fucking chasing them and they were like blowing up stuff like in the middle of the street without permits and like all these crazy stories. And he's like, "I don't want to talk." And I'm like, "Dude, you have like literally the best stories. Like, how many times have you run from the cops like on your sets?" And and he's so proud of it. And you can just see, like, in his theater room, he has all these fucking posters and everything. And it's like, come on, man. Like, give me something. Like, he's such an interesting person. But, it's just like one of those things. It's like they made so much money off of City Lights and PM Entertainment. I think that he would be kind of really into talk because that's how like he would not be owning 17 hotels throughout the United States if he didn't make films for City Lights and PM Entertainment. They were making around like $300 to $500,000 per movie on the City Lights label, and they had budgets anywhere between 10 to 30,000.
Jeez.
And they were pumping out a movie every 3 months. They literally made millions of dollars off of City Lights, and then they made more money off of PM Entertainment after they dropped Gilchrist because Gilchrist was doing all this stupid shit with money. And so that's when they split. That's why PM Entertainment exists. So, anyways, yeah, I mean, that's like a bunch of like nitty gritty stuff. But yeah, then they created PM Entertainment. Budgets went up a little bit, but the numbers of money coming in, they were making, like close to like, they were making anywhere between 500,000 to sometimes almost $1 million on title, like something like Skyscraper. But yeah, it's like he doesn't want to talk about it. And it's like there's so much information from these dudes because they literally like pioneered like kind of home video and the actions side of things. And not there wasn't many people. I mean, Corman made a lot of films back to back, but it was mainly for drive-ins he was making his money from. Like, these guys literally took advantage of the home video industry literally at the perfect time. Some people like, Tanya York for York Entertainment, she did it too, and she became a fucking millionaire. Now she runs like this top salon makeup thing in LA. But they all made their money off the home video industry doing this, and God damn it, I was born at the wrong time because I would have dished out so many fucking movies in the fucking 90s for video stores. Like, it was so, and it's crazy because if you were a filmmaker, you were stupid for not doing this.
Yeah.
Literally just get together with other filmmakers, raise money for like $30,000, make a movie, sell it for $500,000. what do you do? Like,
Printing
why
money.
not do
Yeah.
that? And all these movies are fucking great now. And now this second round of kind of history comes through with these movies, wanting to be available again and be seen in new audiences, old audiences. And
Well,
yeah,
and a lot of people hungry for that type of filmmaking too. It's not even just home video stuff.
it's literally like no shit's given. It's like it's like a lower budget Larry Cohen.
Exactly. And
Where
people, are
Larry
tired of
just
the CGI stuff and wanting the no permit explosion in the street type of movie.
yeah, it's just it literally Larry Cohen gave no fucks. I'm surprised Larry Cohen wasn't shot himself or arrested. I mean, he could have been
Yeah.
arrested. Hey, he never told any stories about being arrested. I don't think so. But it's literally it's so funny watching. If you're not familiar, watching Larry Cohen films with action, if people are listening, watch when an action sequence happens. You'll see Larry Cohen in the background, crowd
Yeah.
controlling. He'll be like this because he's telling people it's like a fake, it's a movie. Literally shooting like Fred Williamson, in Black Caesar, just plow this 6 foot, 6, I don't know how tall Fred is, 6'7", 6'8", fucking black man in the middle of the street,
Just
head blown
falling
up
to the
like
ground.
Black Caesar. And it's just a movie, guys. We just killed this guy. But it's so funny, man. But that's the thing is these guys were unhinged, doing crazy in the stunts, and you even take Maniac Cop, for instance. That sequence where they handcuff in the car and the person's on this, how the fuck do you do that?
Right.
It's a real goddamn person. There's even a stunt sequence in Body Parts where the killer handcuffs Jeff Fahey
In the car, yeah.
and they had the cars. I mean, I know that's probably a fake arm, but having those cars so close together and having the stuntman driving oh my God, this is fucking great. And you don't get that anymore.
Yeah.
You don't get those Italian car chases in Rome where they're literally driving in narrow real streets. It's not fucking the Fast and the Furious where they're
Right.
oh, here's 18 million miles of road that we can twist and turn on. No, it's hey, you got to run through this corridor and we're going to set the camera so don't hit it, but you're going to have to hop over it. And it's what the fuck, man? It's just this crazy aspect of filmmaking, and that's what the PM guys did. City Lights and all. I mean, City Lights is a little bit more tame, but PM, dude, they were how do we have this explosion? Are we gonna throw a dummy off the side of the roof? No, get Spyro to do it. That's how Rotazzo got his fucking start, was being in PM Entertainment stuff, and then he's literally the top stunt driver in the fucking movie industry now. So anytime you see a car driving down the street in Fast and Furious, that's Spyro doing his fucking
PM
shit.
Entertainment to thank for that.
Yeah, and literally he's one of the PM Entertainment dudes.
Well, I mean, we're probably about to wrap this up. There's a lot of titles coming, like we said. There's a lot of titles that we haven't really gotten into super deep, detailed analysis about that have been released since the last August show. So take a look at the back catalog. There's tons of cassettes available, tons of vinyl out there, lots of fun merch. But I mean, overall, get excited. If it's something that you're anticipating, really, really look forward to this next year. I'm going to be around as much as I can for TerraVision stuff, and I think that I will do my best to advocate for every single drop because, man, it's an exciting year.
I mean, I hope. fingers crossed. If not, we're all dead. We're all gonna die.
On that hopeful note, we will be here with everybody again on the next batch of release announcements, go into some detail on those, and we will talk to you that time. Have a good one.
Thank you.